Welcome everyone to lecture number 28.13. We have discussed till article number 23. Now we are proceeding for article number 24. We'll see what exactly is present under this article 24. This is a special provision for the protection of children is made under the article 24, which provides that no child below the age of 14 years can be employed to work in any factory or mine or engaged in any hazardous employment. Okay, so this article 24 talks about the prohibition of child labor. See, in many textbook you will see that a simple line has been written about that, but there are many things that we have to know inside about this thing. So we'll see all the aspects in detail. When we are telling the child, so which child who are less than 14 years of age, who are 14 years of less than 14 years of age. Okay, now there was a law in which year, in 1986, that deals with the child labor. It was Prohibition of Regulation Act. Under the Prohibition of Regulation Act. Through that the child can't work in hazardous industries. Through this, can't work in hazardous industries. Okay, now and further, in these two aspects further, one was that they can't work in hazardous industry, and another aspect was that can another aspect was that can work can work in non-hazardous industries. Okay, now this law continued but it was realized that it is deteriorating another right. Through that, it was realized that it was deterioration of another law was happening under it. Other law. What law? Which law? That was in article 21A. We have discussed that through that article 21A there was a right to education was given through the 86th Amendment Act 2002. Okay, so now it was realized that it is against the right to education. Okay, it was not compatible with that right to education and getting work. Okay, so this this article 21A was added in year 2002, and this realization was happened in 2016. Okay, so in 2016, 1986 law is amended. Okay, so in 2016, 1986 law is amended. Now what this law tells, that the child labor, prohibition and prohibition and regulation amendment act 2016 was brought up. Okay, and what was its objective? What was its objective? What was its objective? Now, as per this law, this act and act this act was produced, an act to prohibit the engagement of children in all occupations and to prohibit the engagement of adolescents and who were these adolescents? The children who were under the 14 to 18 years age. Okay, so prohibits the engagement of adolescents and to prohibit the engagement of adolescents in hazardous occupations and processes Okay, so now this act was like to prohibit the children engagement of adolescents, like even 14 to 18 years of age, if children is there, they should not work in the industries called hazardous industries and all. Okay, now what was the provisions under it? What were the provisions? Now we'll see the provisions. That no child shall be employed. This was overall aim. This was the aim of it. Now we'll see what were the provisions that were introduced under this act. Okay, the act that they brought up, that the Child Labor Amendment Act in 2016 that they brought up. So in these provisions were that no child shall be employed or permitted to work in any occupation or processes. Okay, their main motive was that simple and straight, but there are exceptions. What are the exceptions? We'll see. So the simple call of this law was that no child shall be employed or permitted to work in any occupation or process. Now, what are the exceptions under it? What are the exceptions? We'll see that exceptions. Now there can be the scenario that if you go to the in village and shop, so let us suppose a family is running a shop. Okay, now for that shop, sometimes it happens that mother is busy, father is doing some, let us suppose father is in farm. Okay, and mother is cooking at the time. Or let us say mother used to sit on the shop, but let us suppose a child want to just help a mother, so that mother can do some household work also. So now this boy used to sit on the shop after school. Okay, so now whether this child will be allowed to work in the shop? Yes, it is his own shop, his father's shop. So this is also a kind of occupation. So whether this child is allowed to look after the shop and all. So now these kinds of questions were being raised, and to solve that, the exceptions were produced. Now what are the exceptions for that? The exceptions is that if the child, if the child helps his family enterprise, family enterprise which is other than any hazardous occupations, the shop should not be related to patakas and kind of things. So if it is related to hazardous operations after his or her school hours, after his or her, same for here, his or her school hours, or even during vacations. So this thing is allowed. A child can help his family enterprise after his school or in vacation period. Okay, and that occupation and that enterprise should not be any hazardous occupation. What is there a list of hazardous things and all? Okay, and this is a controversial thing. We will look after it. Now second thing, if the child, we have seen in the movies and the serial that there are many times a child are working in in serials and all. Okay, so are these things allowed? Because ultimately the child is made into work, and that is kind of occupation, that child is doing that. So is it allowed? Yes, that kind of exception is also there. So if the child works as an artist, if the child work as an artist in an audio visual entertainment industry, including advertisement, films, television serials, or any such entertainment or sports activities, that is also allowed. So two exceptions are there, except child can't work in the circus, except the circus. So two exceptions are there, that child can help his family enterprise after his school and or during the vacation, and that enterprise must not be related with uh, your hazardous industry. And second, a child can work as an artist in all the field except in circus, that child cannot work in the circus. Now provided that no such work under this clause shall affect the whatever the things that we have discussed, provided that no such work under this clause shall affect the school education of the child. Okay, now questions are there. What are the penalties if it is found to do that, if the parents are found to do that? Now penalties are for both child and adolescent. Like if even in the case, even if the like in both the scenario, if he is a child or if he is an adolescent, if anything found that the above act is violated, so then there are penalties. What are the penalties? Penalties will be imprisonment of minimum 6 months imprisonment, which can be extended till 2 years. That can be extended till 2 years, and 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 even with fine of rupees 2000 to 50,000. And sometimes these are or like these are, let me, whatever I said, these are or, and sometimes both can be imposed, and sometimes even both can be imposed. Okay, so I don't think there is any doubt related to it. Okay, so now important point is that provided that parents and guardians of such children shall not be punished unless they permit such child for commercial purposes in contravention of the law for both and children. Like parent and guardian of such children shall not be punished under they permit such child for commercial. If the parents are permitted, if there is a permission of the parent, so then there is a no case of law can be there, no penalties and all can be there if they permitted to child in a work or commercial purposes and all, like in the artist, like as an artist, if they allowed, yes they can do so. Okay, this is allowed in the case, like parent permission should be there. Whatever the things I have discussed here, parent permission is required. Now what is the analysis happened on that? So in multiple voice has been raised, like yes, it looks from top that whatever the law has been amended in year 2016, it looks very good. Okay, but there are questions have been raised on this aspect, that hazardous occupation, that government has changed the list of hazardous industries. What are the things that we'll see? Now let us go with the analysis of this changes, what has happened, whether this is good or bad. Now in 1986, law hazardous industries list contained 83, there were 83 kind of occupations that were listed as the hazardous in 1986 law. But when 2016 law came, the list of hazardous industries reduced to only 3. And what are they? And that's where the controversies happened. Like, okay, you are telling that the previous law was not that good, you want to amend that. Whatever the things that you have told, it looks very good from top. Okay, but when we dig deep, it looks that you have reduced the number of industries, okay, as a hazardous one. Like only you have mentioned 3 industries as a hazardous. One is mining, second is explosive, and third is factory act. That's it. That's it. And non-hazardous you have mentioned, and you are telling that non-hazardous, the list such as which were present in the 1996, like working in chemical mixing industry, cotton, battery, you are allowing it. You are telling that these industries are not hazardous. How these industries are not hazardous? How we are telling that these industries are not hazardous? These industries contain very harmful chemical within that. Okay, and we have that this 2016 law, what it has made, that it has reduced the number of industries. It was around 83. Just think about that. The government has reduced 83 to 3. How is this possible? It means that only three industries, mining, explosive and factory industries, are hazardous, and rest of the industries are not non-hazardous. It means the government is telling that the industries who relate with occupations related to the chemical mixing, cotton, battery, all those aspects are, all those industries are non-hazardous. What kind of joke is that? Okay, so that's what a controversy has happened regarding that. Okay, but still it is continued. Further, it can be reduced. This listing is done by the bureaucrats. Parliament is not involved in that. So family enterprise has also not been explained in detail in this 2016 law. Like son of manual scavengers working as scavengers. So in the 2016 law, this family enterprise, as I've said now, that child are allowed to work with the family enterprise, and it should not be from the hazardous industries, and the child should work in after school hours or during his or her vacation. Okay, that is telling. But nowhere this family enterprise is defined. Let us suppose we have seen the scenario now. Manual scavenging is illegal, but even though it is somewhere, it is being practiced now. Whenever this manual scavenging is being done by the father from generation, now son, it means like the son is also been allowed to do the manual scavenging. Okay, so that kind of questions are being raised. Hours of work has also not been mentioned. We are telling that childs are not allowed to work in the hazardous industries, but if it is they allowed to work in the non-hazardous industries, what is the hours of week? What is the hours of work? That is not mentioned. This may snatch their childhood, rest, play, time for their work, homework, etc. And 2016 Act keep the childhood at risk. It contains various challenge. Even if it is an even if it is an historical law, it has a multiple issues within that. Okay, so poverty can only be diminished if we completely ban the working of a children. The criticism is that you allowed to work child in the family enterprise, but you haven't defined lack of working hours. Childhood of the child is at risk. Some say this law is actually the favoring child labor, caste based occupation like manual scavenging. So this act should be reformed. Don't give the argument that poverty is in our country, so child labor will be here. That kind of uh, word should not be, that kind of statement should not be given. Okay, and see, one more thing I want to make it clear, that one second, yeah, I want to tell one thing, that whatever the things, like, you will be confused later point of time, so I just want to make it clear, like, till the age below age 14 years, child is not allowed in all occupation. In all occupations, child is not allowed. Yes, cereals, and there is exception, cereal and that one, family enterprise kind of things. Yes, that is an exception, but rest of the thing, like, child is not allowed till the 14 years. Okay, it is like in the second one is like helping the parent enterprise, like shops and all. Okay, and the second was that if the child is a serial work as an artist, that is allowed. Okay, respect to that, apart from that, child below the 14 years of are not allowed for any occupation. Now child from 14 years of age, from 14 years of age to 18 years, 14 years age and less than 18 years, sorry what I'm telling, uh, 14, it should be this one, 14 years of age to less than 18 years of age. If this is the case, in that case child is allowed for occupation, but it should not be hazardous at any case. Understood? This is different. Less than 14 years, child is not allowed at all for any occupation, exception two cases. If it is helping in the family enterprise, that is allowed, and if the child is working as an artist, that is allowed. That's it. Apart from that, no occupation for the child below 14 years age. And after that, adolescent, we call it from that period is called adolescent. At adolescent, they are allowed to work in occupation, but it should not be the hazardous industries. And current, the list of hazardous industries are three only. They are Factory Act, the thing that comes under the Factory Act, explosive and mining. Only these three will be considered under the hazardous industries currently as per the law. Okay, so this was all about in this lecture. Please subscribe. This is new channel. We really need your support. Thank you.